Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of the Moreno Show. Guys, unless you live under a rock, you probably already heard that Dr. Cali Means has been nominated as the U.S.'s next Surgeon General. Okay, this is iconic. This is monumental, but there are an endless amount of perspectives here. Some are very for this and some are very against her. And I really wanted us to go ahead and dive into all these perspectives. People from Megyn Kelly to the food babe to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. himself to Cali Means, right? To other doctors and physicians. And I just thought this would be a really a good video to dive into a little bit of the nuances of what this nomination means or what we could expect in the future. But I do want us to start with what President Trump shared yesterday, because at this moment, it really did feel like he set the entire internet on fire. And I feel like he almost started to, it almost feels like there's a civil war happening within MAHA. The people who are for this, the people who are against this, the people who think this is okay, the people who absolutely despise this. And I'm like, as soon as I heard the news, I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? This is amazing. As you guys know, whenever we're in the studio, Casey and Cali Means, the Good Energy book is literally right behind me whenever I'm recording, just because I love the book and I love them and I think they're great. And right after their Joe Rogan interview, I was just completely bought in. And so I thought this was incredible, but there are so many other perspectives here that I really want us to go into. And I don't think of perspectives necessarily as right or wrong, more so than just like, oh, this is what someone is feeling in this moment. And I just thought, like, let me just go ahead, hit record, and dive into what I am saying. But we are going to start here with President Trump. Okay, this is what President Trump wrote on Truth Social. Before I do, let me just say thank you so much for tuning in. Please consider liking and subscribing if you want to be part of more conversations like this in the future and if you think they are important. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right in. So President Trump on yesterday at 5:45, he said, I am pleased to announce that Dr. Cali Means will be nominated as our next Surgeon General of the United States of America. Casey has impeccable MAHA credentials and will work closely with our wonderful Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., to ensure a successful implementation of our agenda in order to reverse the chronic disease epidemic and ensure greater health in the future for all Americans. Her academic achievements, together with her life's work, are absolutely outstanding. Dr. Cali Means has the potential to be one of the finest surgeon generals in the United States history. Holy smokes. Congratulations to Casey. Secretary Kennedy looks forward to working with Dr. Jeanette Nashwat in another capacity at HHS. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So I'm assuming most people who are watching this already are familiar with Cali Means, but if you don't know, here's a quick little bio. She did write Good Energy. It's a huge bestseller. She has been on a bunch of podcasts, including Andrew Huberman's and Joe Rogan's. She's even seen here with the Bill Maher, and here she is with the Joe Rogan and her brother. And obviously she's been posting a bunch of things pretty much showing a bunch of support, and this is from the food babe. The food babe writes, Dr. Means knows that food is medicine and there couldn't be a better nomination for this position at HHS. Thank you, POTUS and Sec Kennedy. And speaking of Secretary Kennedy, here is what he has to say. Right after President Trump made this announcement, he writes, the Surgeon General is a symbol of moral authority who stands against the financial and institutional gravities that tend to corporatize medicine. Cali Means was born to hold this job. She will provide our country with ethical guidance, wisdom, and gold standard medical advice, even when it challenges popular orthodoxies. She will be a juggernaut against the ossified medical conventions that have helped make our people the sickest in the world at the highest cost per capita. Casey is a breath of fresh air, and we can't wait for her to get started at hhs.gov. Thank you, President Trump, for nominating this outstanding woman. And he wasn't done, because after this, like I told you, there was a huge amount of backlash. I wish I could tell you that it was just very lighthearted. It was only some people in the comment section. It was almost from just bots, but that didn't happen. There was a lot of resistance on this nomination, and so much so that Secretary Kennedy my boy RFK Jr. had to go on the defense, and he said this: the absurd attacks on Casey Means reveal just how far off course our healthcare conversations have veered, and how badly entrenched interests, including Big Food and its industry-funded social media gurus, are terrified to change. Casey has excelled in every endeavor she has undertaken. She was president of her Stanford undergrad class, was a standout at Stanford Medical School, and was a top performer in a surgical residency. She had the courage to leave traditional medicine because she realized her patients weren't getting better. Look at this. The attacks that Casey is unqualified because she left the medical system completely missed the point of what we're trying to accomplish with MAHA. Casey is the perfect choice for Surgeon General precisely because she left the traditional medical system, not in spite of it. Her leadership has inspired many doctors to reform the system and forge a new path away from sick care, which fills corporate coffers, and toward healthcare, which enriches all of us. After leaving traditional medicine, Casey started a company and wrote a New York Times best-selling book, come on somebody, that empowered patients and helped launch the MAHA movement. This ability of Casey's to inspire Americans to rethink our healthcare system is also an existential threat to the status quo interests, which profit from sickness. The goal of MAHA is to reform the largest and most powerful industry in the United States. I have little doubt that these companies and their conflicted media outlets will continue to pay bloggers and other social media influencers to weaponize innuendo to slander and vilify Casey the same way that they tried to defame me and President Trump. And look at this. Look at how he ends this. But it will not work. Look at this. Every day I wake up emboldened to drive change because I know the support of MAHA moms has my back. Casey has played an integral role of galvanizing these moms. Casey articulates better than any American the North Star of a country where we have eliminated diabetes, disease, and obesity through prioritizing metabolic health. Casey will help me ensure American children will be less medicated and better fed and significantly healthier during the next 4 years. And look at how he ends off. Look at this sign off. She will be the best Surgeon General in American history. RFK Jr. published that a few hours ago, and it has already garnered almost 1 million views, 969.6 at the time of recording. This is historic. But unfortunately, there are people who disagree. Laura Loomer is one of those people, one of the loudest voices against this. This is crazy. Before I play that, I will share this by Robert Malone. He says Secretary Kennedy has given his unconditional support to Casey Means, MD, because she is a great choice. That is right. And he goes on to say, don't be naive. Casey Means wrote a book on nutrition and a big ag and toxic food supply, not mRNA vaccines. She has provided direction for the MAHA movement, which is Make America Healthy Again. It is about chronic disease and nutrition and so much more, not just about vaccines. Trump will not nominate someone who can't get through confirmation or who will have to make promises to senators in the committee that will tie up what the Trump administration can accomplish. He needs the Senate to confirm his appointments. I do think a lot of people are missing this, and there could be a lot of people who really watch these videos as well. I can't explain how many comments I get from so many people who are like, why isn't RFK Jr. doing this? Why isn't he working on this or that? And maybe RFK Jr. did have to compromise a bit. We know this is true from how his Senate confirmation looked. We know that he had to negotiate with some senators, and we know that he is not operating out of complete freedom. But I do think even with any limitations that he might have, I feel like what he is still accomplishing is incredibly good. Also, everyone, I just wanted to apologize. I think I'm coming up with some allergies right now, so my nose is running. I had to sneeze, so that's why there's going to be cuts, and that's why this video is so imperfect. But the conversation mattered more than, me feeling better. So we're just going to continue. But I do think a lot of people need to understand that it's not just about President Trump choosing like the best person or the most qualified person, but it's also about him choosing the person that will get confirmed. It's about him choosing the person who will best lead in office. And I think that's something that we need to consider. So back to this, Laura Loomer says President Trump has nominated Dr. Casey Means to be the next U.S. Surgeon General. Surgeon General is a very interesting term. The Surgeon General is a nation's top doctor, responsible for providing medical advice and leadership on public health issues. It is worth noting that Casey Means doesn't have a surgical residency and isn't a surgeon. The term Surgeon General is interesting given the fact that there is no requirement to be a surgeon to be Surgeon General. Turns out you can be a social media influencer and become Surgeon General. Did you know that? I wonder why it's called Surgeon General if you don't have to be a surgeon to hold the position. Turns out you don't have to be a Trump supporter either, she continues. So I do think a lot of this is just really, really unfair because I do think Casey Means is incredibly qualified. She's a Stanford educated physician, and I think she chose to leave the medical system because she knew that she was actually making her patients sicker instead of actually bringing the healing that she knows that people deserve. And it doesn't end here. There's Mary Talley Bowden, MD. She says she doesn't even have an active license and didn't finish her residency. And here's a screenshot of that. So Casey Means, MD, current status, inactive. There you go. One of the surprising ones for me was actually from Nicole Shanahan, RFK Jr.'s running mate in the 2024 election. This is really crazy to me. Nicole Shanahan on X just last night, she posted this. She said, "Yes, it's very strange. Doesn't make any sense. I was promised that if I supported RFK Jr. in his Senate confirmation, that neither of these siblings would be working under HHS or an appointment, and that people much more qualified would be. I don't know if RFK Jr. very clearly lied to me or what is going on. It has been clear in recent conversations that he is reporting to someone regularly who is controlling his decisions, and it isn't President Trump. With regards to the siblings, there's something very artificial and aggressive about them, almost like they were bred and raised Manchurian assets. Very, very wild take, I would say. This is really surprising. And it makes me think that I don't know the whole story, right? That's why I really don't like to, dog or bag on any of these other people's opinions because at the end of the day, we're living in a much different reality. She was his VP. They know they have the inside scoop. They have the as inside of a scoop as you could possibly get. And I'm just looking at from the outside in like a little turtle, right? But this part was interesting to me. She said, "I was promised that if I supported RFK Jr. in his Senate confirmation, then either these siblings would be working under HHS." I'm like, why wouldn't you just inherently support your running mate in his Senate confirmation? I thought you'd be fairly happy for him. I didn't know his support was something that needed to be, like, no, there would have to be a promise exchanged. I thought that was really interesting. I don't know. Lauren Lee says something interesting about the means, and actually, I do agree with that. She says, "You simply can't have it both ways. You can't complain that Casey Means talks to trees, did mushrooms, and is a woo-woo woman with no medical license, while simultaneously calling her an establishment plant." Owned and operated by the Rockefellers. The logic doesn't work. The establishment has a vested interest in ending everything Casey stands for, especially spirituality in medicine, and clearly is trying to take her down for it. She has done her advocacy outside of the system entirely. The same system her critics claim set her up. Furthermore, it is peak hypocrisy to hate on her lack of credentials. The MAHA movement criticizes the most credentialed doctors for being owned by pharma and is notably rebellious in the face of industry experts. But now we appeal to authority. If Casey, this is so funny, but now we appeal to authority. What is it about us? If Casey Means had every credential in the book, she would be labeled a plant, even more so. Already, she had been accused of Rockefeller connections because she went to Stanford and her family has medical experience and ties to prestigious fellowships. There is no winning with people who cherry pick this way. Their standards are inconsistently applied at best and emotionally and intentionally targeted at worst. That is so good. I have yet to see one credible argument against Means. All is conjecture, jealousy, and suspicion at her rapid rise. We would do ourselves well to see and recognize the immense progress here, joining forces to revolutionize science and medicine in this country. If I have learned anything this year, it is that the establishment and its paid ops scream the loudest against those they fear the most. Clearly, they are terrified of Casey Means. Wow, I think that is probably one of the best clapbacks at all of the haters coming at Casey Means. I really, really love this from Lauren Lee. That is fantastic. And here we have someone else clapping back at Laura Loomer. This is Cali Means, Casey Means' brother, as well as co-author of Good Energy. He says she is a Stanford-educated physician. She completed 5 years out of residency. She left the system to speak out. She wrote a book about this that sold 1.5 million copies to inspire others to leave the medical system and reform it. She is the single best person in the world on connecting the dots behind our chronic diseases crisis, and her reason for existence is to help President reverse these trends. She worked to encourage RFK Jr. to support Trump and went on Joe Rogan with a specific intention to convince undecided MAHA voters to support Trump. This is huge. Obviously, clapping back at what Laura Loomer said earlier, saying, turns out you don't have to be a Trump supporter either. But there we go. So I really wanted this conversation to be just a curation of a bunch of perspectives that I've been seeing online about Casey Means, people who are for her, people who are against her, just wanting to get a healthy palette of all the perspectives, really. And this is one from Megyn Kelly. She says, looking forward to discussing Casey Means on the show today. She is a brilliant pick for Surgeon General. So hopefully we get some awesome moments featuring the two of them tomorrow. But finally, I do want to end off this video with President Trump, when a reporter asked why they picked her to be America's top doctor. And look at what President Trump said here. I thought this was absolutely iconic.
And is not a practicing physician. So can you explain why you picked her to be America's top doctor?
Because Bobby thought she was fantastic. She's she's a brilliant woman who went through Stanford, and as I understand it, she basically wanted to be an academic as opposed to a surgeon. I think she graduated first in her class at Stanford. And Bobby really thought she was great. I don't know her. I listened to the recommendation of Bobby. I met her yesterday and once before. She's a very outstanding person, a great academic, actually. So I think she'll be great.
There you go, President Trump ends off saying, I think she'll be great. I love that. Wow. Anyways, I think the only thing I should ask right now is, what do you think, the people who are watching this video? I think this video is going to end up being a little bit longer, although I don't know, because I'm going to have to cut a lot of it out because, like I said, I was sick, so I had to sneeze and blow my nose, and I had to start over a bunch of times because my nose started acting up. But what do you think about all this? What do you think about Casey Means? What do you think about her being this country's next Surgeon General? Are you for it? Are you against it? Do you approve? Do you disapprove? What do you like here? What's on your radar? I'm genuinely curious here. All right. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. What perspective do you agree the most with? And please let me know what you think about all this in the comment section. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time. And please consider liking and subscribing. It's one of the best ways you can help me out. Thank you. Episode's over already? Geez, that was fast. Well, they say beautiful things do not last forever, but feel free to watch and listen to another one of these episodes if you're interested in those conversations as well. Also, this next part is huge. Make sure to obliterate that like and subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never skip a beat. I also have a newsletter where we dive into the news, politics, and ideas that shape our future. If you're interested in signing up, I'd really appreciate that. Anyways, that's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time.